And we are live Division 2 Zoom Racing League in Interlagos, Brazil at the Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Welcome to the Division 2 racing, everybody. It is John Ranger, your broadcaster, who's just finished a wild Division 3 race. So a little bit out of breath here, a bit tired, but we're going to go ahead with this broadcast. And I'm joined in the booth with Seb, who's also had a very eventful Division 3 race and a long race at that with the restart with the sprint glitch. Thank you, Codemasters. Hopefully we don't get that kind of glitch over here in Division 2 as a couple drivers are already getting out and setting warming up their laps for their first fast lap. So as we're watching the Mercedes of Lights going ahead at it, Seb, welcome to our first Division 2 broadcast of the season. It's an exciting race that we have ahead of us. We're going to have a short qualifying, a sprint race, followed by our usual 50% race. And it looks like there's already an Aston Martin that's binned it, of Matteo, so that's the end for him. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, something like that. And I think he raced also in D1. Well, you spoke a little bit about Magnussen Cube. I'm very curious about what his pace is going to be. And there's a couple guys out there, honestly. I'm really curious about the newcomers in Division 2. So let's not forget last season we had Division X right before Crossplay came around in F122. And so we had the Xbox racers were driving it in their own division. The ratings throughout the division allowed them to be sorted throughout the league. And now we've got some guys that are being put out in across the divisions. Division 2 now, we're already seeing some newer kind of guys, and we spoke about Matteo earlier, who made quite an impression in the Aston Martin for Joel. Noticing guys and names I don't really recognize, like Blue Collar Jesus. We spoke about Magnussen Cube. Klinsman I've seen here and there, so those are drivers I'm curious to see where they're going to be. We are missing a driver. We're only 19 drivers so far, so I don't know if we're going to have a late driver coming in at some point, or if we're going to have... only 19 drivers tonight.
He, I think, just comes out of his box now, and just going over, we have lights in P1 now with a 107.6. I believe that is already faster than the fastest time we saw in D3, which was around 107.8, 107.7, I believe. So we should be seeing times being incredibly quicker than D3 here if lights time is anything to go off of.
Yeah, most definitely. And we're already seeing a bunch of drivers going into the 107s already. Division 3, well, there was an overcast kind of temperature out there, so the weather affected maybe a little bit the times in qualifying. But we're early in the short qualifying, and we're already seeing a bunch of 107, 107.6 with lights was pretty quick. Sid in the McLaren, 107.8, and Victor Diaz was also a really fast driver as well. So, yeah, these are the kind of guys that I think could probably lower their times. And can Division 2 give us the first 106 in qualifying times? I'm wondering if one of these guys...
Times,
I don't know.
I think if anyone does that, I'd be betting on them for the championship.
We've seen Eruption. Well, I just say the word Eruption, and he's ballerina doing the ballerina on turn 2 there. So, but we've seen Eruption, the likes of Eruption and Dougie Falcons, do some kind of esports times on tracks they're very comfortable with.
Yeah.
So who knows?
I mean, it's possible, and I think that'd make them big shoo-ins for D1, or sorry, not D1, but this championship here. If they can put up those times, that I'd be surprised seeing the quickest people in D1, like Hudson putting up.
And I'm just getting a message here that the Mateo had a hardware issue.
Okay, yeah, that's what I figured.
Just going to turn you up. I think people wants to hear you a little bit more.
And speaking of qualifying, with us having been on track, how is qualifying at Interlagos for you?
Actually tricky. For me. For reasons other than the track, I think I really got in my own head being for the first time on a top tier team in Red Bull, and I was really trying to impress and went a little too hard on the throttle a couple times. But this is a track I practiced a lot on, and I felt comfortable around qualifying, and I think these setups are going to be the drivers have chosen their setup. Some of them along for the qualifying lines, others maybe for race setups. So curious to see, how some drivers will do. Well, we've seen throughout the Division 3 and Division 4 race as well, drivers maybe a bit more in the back of the pack eventually get a lot more top speed in the race and race conditions than the front runners. So things could still be mixed around, and the sprint race is a great indicator of what is going to happen throughout the actual Grand Prix.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the sprint race means that we actually have 48 racing laps tonight, which means that being able to hit those top-end speeds is going to be incredibly important to maintain and gain positions. And the other thing that I appreciated in quali is that I felt like it gave me just a little bit of margin where I knew I could make those positions back up in the sprint and then have that time in the race. Of course, it didn't really turn out that way for me, but a man can dream. But I think really the biggest challenge in qualifying I have around Interlagos is because it's such a short lap, is trying to time it so that you don't have any traffic is very difficult, and the teams and their engineers will be working hard and just hoping for a little bit of luck to get that done. But being able to get a clean lap in is very important. I know a certain Red Bull with a driver named John Ranger. I was stuck behind him on my final lap, and it really prevented me from improving, just being in the dirty air.
Yeah, well, this is the kind of track, especially in the Sector 2, where if you do get stuck. So first things first, we're going to see a lot of packings, right? A lot of DRS trains throughout this race eventually. But Sector 2 is where it gets tricky, and we saw a lot of drivers in Division 3 spinning out in those sectors from all over the grid, mainly because you really have to adjust your driving once you're behind a driver and behind the dirty air. And the final corner, turn 14, or should I say corner 13, is also a corner where most drivers will maybe go a little too heavy on the throttle and spin out there, trying to catch up to the guy in front of them, just upcoming to that DRS zone.
And what'll really catch you out is that you can be up there, get into like short shift to fourth, and then you get wheel spin after that, and that's really what I think will catch a lot of drivers out.
Yeah.
Hopefully in D2 we'll see drivers, being a little bit cleaner and being able to avoid that, but it's really anyone's guess. And I think the reason that we see the dirty air being such a struggle for the drivers here is because of the sprint, and just because of the nature of Interlagos. You really want to maximize your straight line and run the minimum downforce you can get away with for sectors 1 and 3, but then of course as soon as you start losing those points of downforce in the second sector, that can make it a big challenge for you to keep up the pace being stuck behind someone.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think drivers who chose low downforce setups also notice the challenge of keeping the car on track when the tires start getting really used up. Once you hit that 50-60% mark, some of these cars can become really difficult to drive, and some adjustments have to be made during the race and at that moment. I just got information, by the way, from Labib that we're looking at a full dry qualifying, obviously, as we're seeing, but as well as a sprint and the full race It'll be sunny sunshine for Brazil, and these guys are ready to go. We've got about, what, 6 minutes left in the qualifying, so we stop waiting for Alex Duarte and Klinsmann to be able to put up a lap time, but so far nothing better than from Lights' 1:07.6 from earlier this qualifying session.
Yeah, and of course, only the top 5 drivers in the 107, so I think that's really showing you how competitive the D3 times are. And, you know, the excellent drivers we have there, and, I mean, of course, that 107.6 from Lights is showing how impressive of a driver he is. That's an incredibly quick time. I know from practices that's kind of around where some of the D1 drivers are placing themselves, so really solid time from him.
And he improves just slightly over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great job from Lights, and he's looking to push and improve, and let's see who's going to be able to challenge him so far. And I just noticed something is he's in the pits. Is that Victor Diaz in an Alfa Romeo? I believe he got drafted. Yeah.
He got drafted by them. Yeah. I mean, Victor Diaz, he was with Aston last season. He was incredibly quick.
Exactly. He's a quick driver. Now, having raced with Victor Diaz in Aston Martin last season, you know, he's the kind of driver who's maybe a little bit in his bubble and does what he's got to do, but he knows what he's got to do, and he's definitely got a really good pace. So for him to be drafted by an Alfa Romeo, I think Alfa Romeo is going to be really happy with Victor Diaz. If you could get the practice that he needs in this season, I think he's a driver that's able to yield a really good result. And so far, his P3, he's barely 4 thousandths ahead of Eruption there. And just dropped to P4 because Magnussen Cube went 3 tenths up on his time. But that's a driver that could maybe cause some surprises on a track where he feels comfortable on.
Yeah, I mean, we saw last season he was incredibly quick, so him being in D2 and coming in and doing that isn't a huge surprise. I am a little surprised, though, that he ended up falling to pick 12. I mean, I thought it was pretty apparent how quick he was and how competitive a driver he'd be, but I'm glad he's getting to come in here and prove that.
So we're coming into the final moments of qualifying. There's a little bit under 5 minutes to go. Are we seeing, I just want to look, is that Beamer, Arnon Trivedi, and, it was both Haas's. I don't know if they were looking to maybe... Oh, this Beamer nearly runs into the back of his teammate. Combined YouTuber. Oh, we've seen 2 Red Bulls actually. I think 2 seasons ago run into the back of each other trying to do like something similar. Although it was on track with Duncan and Hudson Poole. So yeah, I thought the Haas guys were looking maybe to do a little bit of drafting, which could potentially slingshot a driver a bit further up on the grid. We're mostly seeing drivers coming in now, so maybe we're gonna wait a minute or two before drivers go out for their final lap, and we're gonna expect a lot of traffic.
Yeah, it's a very short lap, so you can really get away with coming out at like the 2-minute mark. The one thing you'll struggle with is the traffic. So we had people go out very early in D3, and that made coming out to do our laps very difficult.
All right, we hit the 3-minute 30 mark, and we're seeing an AlphaTauri of All who's coming out of the pits. And what I thought was BuzzGod, so no, it is Victor Diaz who's coming out also in the pits to warm up his tires. And the Mercedes of Ed Schry is just coming around, and he's definitely done with his lap. I think he's put himself in a bit in a sitting duck position there. He's going to have to come in the pits, and I don't think he's going to have time to come out and go around for a fast lap again.
The margins will be very tight. I'm not sure if he's starting a lap or maybe doing a second out lap to burn fuel. I don't think that's the wisest decision, but it could be.
Oh, it looks like he's pitting. Yeah.
His margins will be incredibly tight on whether or not he's able to get another lap.
Most definitely. So let's go on board here with All, and he's just starting his own fast lap. See if both AlphaTauris are sitting P17 and P18, and All's going to have a little bit of traffic in front of him, and he's already validated in turn 2. So if he wants to have a chance at another lap, he needs to turn off the ERS and go at it with his slightly used tires there. He's got time to go they're ahead. Otherwise, we could go with Victor Diaz, who's still on his fast lap, just passed a little bit of traffic ahead of him. I don't know if that slowed him down, though.
Yeah, and this Aston is also traffic. He's doing well to get out of the way, though, so he's not going to have to worry about that. Maybe getting a little bit of a tow, but probably not, but it shouldn't be hurting him here. Yellow flags are out in the sector he's going through, but he's hit green again. Probably just slow cars as he's a Haas, making sure to get out of his way, but he's going to have a Red Bull here going to the final turn, and the Red Bull will not be obligated to get out of the way as the Red Bull is starting his lap, so... But the Red Bull will do well to get out of the way, so that is good news for Victor Diaz.
Oh, a little bit of a moment.
Oversteer. I mean, that's what we were talking about earlier. That wheel spin will just sneak up on you. The car feels planted, and all of a sudden it's not. And looks like he wasn't going to improve, so he's opted to come back into the pits and save his tires.
Yeah, most definitely. That was he wasn't improving in his time, and you could see his ERS near the end of the lap was dying out over there. So he decides to pit in, and he's going to be sitting at a 107.8. And it's not going to take a lot for guys like Eruption and Dougie to improve their time. And Nathan Doan, a Division 3 driver, who's put himself up in P4 with a 107.8. Nathan Doan showed that he had incredible pace in Division 3.
Yeah, and I believe the next car we're going to have to finish a lap is Blue Collar Jesus. And I think he might have just gone purple in Sector 2, so we could see an incredibly quick time from him here.
Oh, wow. 107.662. That splits between Lights and Sid. What a lap from a Williams driver. See, those are one of the drivers I mentioned earlier. One of those new drivers. And it's not rare we've seen new drivers come in here and put incredible qualifying laps. So that's Blue Collar Jesus. What a name for Division 2, sitting at a 107.6. And that's great showing for the Williams. And Sid... 107.5. He goes pole, provisional pole. Let's see if Lights is currently in his Sector 2, just nearing the end of Sector 2 there. Let's see if he can improve on his time and beat Sid.
Lights is proven to be very quick. He needs a 10th here, though.
Lights has got a good exit out of turn 13 there, so...
Not much more he can do.
And
He wasn't going to improve.
So, not satisfied with that, he decides to pit, and that is the end for him. Next across the line, I was going to say is Eric McNerney, but he's going back into pit, so that's for him being in P17. It's Shry also going into the pit, so not a lot of drivers improving on their times.
Klinsman's coming to complete a lap.
So, Klinsman is going to be crossing.
P3.
Wow. So the Alpine improves at a 107.627, just 200 off of Lights. Are we all done? Yeah, we're all done. That's our top three. So Sid, Lights, and Klinsman are the top three in the qualifying. What a spectacular qualifying, Seb.
Yeah, and I mean, this doesn't show for everything. We're really gonna see who is the race pace come the sprint. So, you know, any of these drivers starting in the top 10 will be hoping that their race pace is just as good as their quali, and anyone lower than that is going to be praying that their race pace is about as bad as it can possibly be so they can make those positions up. Of course, 12 laps to the line to set the order for the feature race in the sprint. So the drivers are going to have to do well to just keep it clean and try and finish, but if they're further down, they might not have a ton to lose.
Yeah, something we've seen throughout the Division 2 last season, Eruption and Dougie, two rivals who are starting P5 and P6. They seem to always be, I don't know if they're both using opposite magnets, but they're always attracted to each other on the grid, clearly.
Yeah, and I mean, we have 12 more laps of racing than we usually would to see if they can give us any content.
So here we go with our qualifying is over. So Sid in the McLaren in P1, followed by Lights, Klinsman, Blue Collar Jesus in Eruption, Dougie Falcons in the Red Bulls P6, Wyal and AlphaTauri, great position for him in P7, combined YouTuber P8, Ethan Patel in the second Red Bull in P9, and Magnussen Cube in P10. So while we thought it would be a Red Bull and Ferrari show, so far McLaren, and I would even include Williams and maybe even Alpine, has been stealing it into qualifying so far. Stay tuned, Sprint Racing is coming up next.
Yeah, and just a little update. I'm not sure. Blue Collar Jesus may be a reserve driver, or one of the Williams drivers has a different name, because on the roster it's Garrett Elder and Ryan Newton.
As a reserve, I mean, that's quite some
But
work
yeah,
there. So
if that is a reserve and not a
definitely,
glorious team name.
yeah. Let's just a quick note here. There will be no formation lap, so expect the race to start off rather quickly for the sprint race. Guys are gonna have just a little bit of time to set their fuel, set their tires to their preferred strategy. Turns 1 and 2 usually tends to be spots for chaos, so stay tuned.
Yeah, I think the struggle in turn 1 is the speed you carry and can make it very hard to keep out of the way of other drivers. A lot of people going deep or losing some traction down there.
And the lights are lit, the reds are on, and off they are, and we are rolling at the Brazilian sprint racing. It's a good start by Sid, followed by Lights, who's just right on the inside of him, and Lights goes on the inside of the McLaren, takes the position, and he comes out on P1. It's not over yet, though, because Sid's fighting him off, and Dougie Falcon and the Red Bulls, great start by him. He's known for his fantastic starts. So Lights takes the first P1 from Sid. Dougie Falcon is in P3. Klinsman and the Alpine got away from Blue Collar Jesus, and already the top 4, a bit of a split there between the other drivers. Blue Collar Jesus is under attack by Eruption, who's trying to go around him from the outside. It's a tricky overtake, and what a move by Eruption, and there's a contact between Collar Jesus and Eruption. Oh goodness.
I also want to point out that in the back, the Mercedes driver of Itry has made up 5 positions to make it to P8 already, so that's point in the sprint, double points for Mercedes.
Great start by our front runners so far, and if we look real quick at the... Oh, Alex Duarte was got a 5-second penalty for ignoring yellow flags. So Dougie Falcons would gain 3 positions, and he's in the back of Sid, and he's looking to gain another position. Already on the ERS, he's got the inside there. Makes the dive, and is he going to make it stick? I think Sid's trying to make the switcheroo, and he does it. Sid really defends well on that move on Dougie. Great racecraft from Sid.
Yeah, Lights will be happy about this, just hoping Dougie and Sid keep at fighting so you can try and build that gap away, because, 12 laps, all he has to do now is keep ahead of these drivers behind him and hang on.
Lights is going to want to get that 1 second... space between him and Sid as much as possible, and Sid's already been under attack from Dougie once. Klinsman's is keeping it up on P5. Why also? We're seeing a couple drivers gaining a lot of positions and some others losing a lot. We've seen Ethan Patel lose the 9 positions. Victor Diaz, who's sitting dead last in P19 so far. Eruption, we saw that contact earlier, now in P15, losing 10 positions. So these drivers are going to be looking to gain their positions back, and sprint chaos kind of does that to you, where there's a lot of drivers who gain positions a lot, who lose. Fastest lap of the race so far goes to Lights at 109.3 on the medium tires. Every single driver are on medium tires, and they're expected to go the full 12 laps unless one driver has damage and he might be thinking of using one of his softs. And we're in the beginning of lap 3, by the way, so we have DRS, and this is where the DRS trains are starting to get, and Lights already sitting at a 1.3 second ahead of Sid. And so he's really far further ahead, but Sid and Dougie could be using their advantage for them to be able to catch up to Lights. We'll see if they can do that during the straight line speed.
Yeah, but Lights has pulled that crucial second gap to ensure that Sid behind does not get the rear wing open and get that extra probably 10-kilometer advantage against Lights. And something else I want to mention is every single driver has opted to start on the medium tire. So no one going for anything crazy with going for the soft, and the hard tire is definitely out of the question for the sprint here.
Oh yeah, there's no chance the hard tires will come alive by that time, and really what we're looking at is the medium tires being the best strategy. Soft tires will die off too quickly at the end of those 12 laps.
Yeah, I mean, it'd definitely be a gamble. Maybe it could pay off if someone's really good on their tires. It would have been interesting to see. from someone at the back, but alas, we have every driver who should be on the same tires, so we're gonna get to see, who can manage the deck better and who can extract more pace from them.
Most definitely, and roller coaster race so far tonight for Ethan Patel, who's dropped down quite a number of positions. He's sitting dead last now. Victor Diaz was gained 2 positions, so there's a battle in the back for drivers who've been chosen rather highly in the draft. Oh, and there's contact between Wild Fury, Ethan, and Victor Diaz. There's a bunch of spinning going off. I think Ethan Patel made contact with Wild Fury during that spin, but Victor Diaz lost the rear, took out Wild Fury. Ethan Patel bumped, and I think he's lucky. He didn't get any damage on his tires so far. On his front wing, I should say, actually. So he's be able to continue going for that.
Yeah, and that's incredibly unfortunate. I mean, all 3 of those drivers are incredibly quick. So they really shouldn't be down there. So making mistakes like that and getting into incidents like that is, I wouldn't say embarrassing, but it's very unfortunate for them when they should be fighting higher.
Most definitely.
Front, Dougie has cleared Sid, so he's gonna see if he can bite at the gap that Lights is managing to pull on the rest of the field right now.
Yeah, most definitely, and we just saw Dougie go ahead and take over for P2 on Sid. With these drivers are really keeping it clean. There's quite a tight pack between P2 all the way going down to P14 in Eruption. These drivers are not that far ahead from far apart from each other, and so there's a lot of things could happen. And there's already only 7 laps left to the sprint race.
Looks like we have Shry getting really close on the back of the Haas of Combined YouTuber.
Yeah, and Sid looks to be losing it just a little bit behind the Red Bull, and Klinsman's going to be taking a peek over there. So far, the Alpine of Klinsman and Blue Collar Jesus in P4 and P5, and even the Wyall in P6, and why not add in the Haas? A Haas in front of the Mercedes so far. These drivers were picked a little bit later in the draft to begin the season, already putting up a good showing for the sprint race, and that's really good stuff for the actual race that's going to come in a minute.
Yeah, and also want to note that the fight for P12, I think we missed it on the broadcast, but they almost went 3 wide into turn 4. Eruption, Beamer, and Eric McNerney, so they're all putting it out there, being in the lower positions. It's really good to see.
Yeah, I'm just I just got to handle a couple sound difficulties here. Just give me a minute.
Yeah. Don't tell me my beautiful commentating has been falling on deaf ears.
And I was speaking with my mic muted, but yeah, some slight technical issues, and I think we should be hearing you great now. And
hopefully.
we're just a little tad bit low, so... Oh, and I was just about to mention Mateo.
P8.
Yeah, there's a great battle there. We just saw it on the stream so far. Mateo had gained a lot of positions and kind of seemed to be sandwiched a little bit, and that inside curve going down in turn 2, you have to be careful going on the downhill there because it's going. I mean, it's gonna bottom out your car, and you'll be finding yourself sliding.
Yeah, and I mean, it makes the racing very difficult just because, you know, drivers, they don't have to leave the space there, but on that curve, you're just not going to have the same traction. Is Victor Diaz is out of the session. Not sure what happened there.
It looks like he's retired in the pits, so I think he's understood that he's not going to be gaining places so far and decided to retire it in the pits.
I think that's a bit of the shame. There's always a chance someone spins or, you know, a safety car for the last lap. But, yeah, alas.
Alright, I think audios are nice and dandy. So yeah, the game was just a little bit over your audio set, but don't worry, we could still hear you good. Just a little bit lower than we wanted. So, what is that? Is that the Alfa Romeo? Oh, the Alfa Romeo of Victor Diaz deciding to come out. You're seeing a bunch of cars just coming around it, trying to avoid the Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, and we have Eruption in P10. He's right behind BuzzGod going into Sector 2.
Yeah, so Eruption, who got punted a little bit in the rear by Blue Collar Jesus, if I'm not mistaken here, and who's trying to make gain places back. And BuzzGod's having a great race so far. Besides, like, I'm going wheel by wheel on wheel with Eruption.
Eruption did well to back out there.
That could have been something.
You want to go around the outside, but hopefully he'll get the run here. Yeah, I mean, Eruption spinning was unfortunate. He made a very risky move at turn 6. It's a corner where the car gets very light and it's very difficult to keep it going. As not sure about you, I'm
seeing a lot of desync, and cars are being spinning around too.
Yeah, saw similar issues happen at the beginning of the feature race for D3. Now people are leaving the session, so Cody's has once again developed just a great game.
Yeah, we're seeing a couple drivers being desynced, and I think that's causing connection issues and some drivers to be dropped out. And Eruption, who I would not be driving so close to BuzzGod. And I'm wondering if it's my stream that's desync, hopefully, but no, it looks like he drove right through BuzzGod, and I think BuzzGod got disconnected completely. Is that possible? I think it's his AI that took over.
It's possible. I'm not sure what the admins are going to decide to do about this.
With only 2 laps left to sprint, at least when we saw in Division 3 we had a similar issue, but it was early in the D3 GP at least. Now we're at the end.
If I'm the admins, I probably scrub back to, say, lap 9 and just take the order from that. Seems like the most fair thing to do. It's probably a bit too late to restart the sprint race.
Most probably. We'll keep an eye on chat and
lost position.
Most definitely.
But we'll wait to hear word from them and see what happens.
So unfortunately, I don't have access to Division 2 chat on my own, so we'll see what's being said out there. But so far, we're still racing here, and we probably missed that on the chat. Did Lights lose it? Did Lights have a spin? I think he got disconnected as well, so his AI took over, and that puts Dougie in P1.
From what I saw, he went straight on at turn 10 and then teleported back on track, and Dougie passed him. So I'm honestly not really sure what happened to him, but it's a real shame because he had such amazing pace on everyone else. So to get knocked down to P4 for something like desync is, I personally would not be happy.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of, I'm seeing the comments in general chat. There's a lot of desyncing issues so far. So we'll see what the admins and the moderators decide to do, but it could be something that will be seen. We might have an order from lap 8. Unfortunately, the bug is specifically with tracks that normally have sprint races enabled. So I don't know them by heart, but Brazil is one of them, and I do believe we have another sprint track.
Brazil, Austria, and Imola are the 3 sprint tracks.
Well, there you go. So, and we are driving all 3 of those tracks this season in season 6. So hopefully Cody's on this and gets to fix it before we have to cancel potentially sprint racing.
Yeah, well, I don't know about you. I'm not. Oh, Sid spun.
Oh, Sid just went a little too heavy, and that's on lap 12. They're just out there in turn 13, and Sid, who had an incredible pace so far.
Yeah,
How
that's-
unfortunate for him, tumbling down the order, and he's gonna finish
Oh, that's
P12. So it's P12 on track, but maybe, and I'm looking on chat, maybe we're gonna only
P11.
revert back to lap 8 results for
Yes.
the actual GP race. So that might be the blessing in disguise for Sid there.
Yeah, if I'm the admins, I'm gonna get a rehost going and reinstate from one of the laps during
Yep.
the race, preferably before the desync started.
Most definitely. So on our broadcast on our end, we're just gonna put the race on pause just a little minute, and we'll be back with you for the completion or the beginning of the actual Brazilian Grand Prix. Stay tuned, everybody. And we are back, loading up our remade lobby. We set the orders along for lap 10 in the sprint race, where all hell broke loose, if we could say it like that. So, Seb, who is your driver for the win for this Grand Prix?
I think Light showed he has a lot of pace, and over the race distance, I have faith he can snag it.
So let's hopefully all these drivers make sure that they have their setups back on, because it's a different lobby, and get their tire strategies and their fuel strategies set up. Once again, like with the sprint, we're not going to have a formation lap.
Yeah, we're not certain what the starting order is, but they're definitely starting, and cars will be on their install order.
Yeah, just looking at Lights, that means before the desync, Lights was still D1, so he will be starting D1, followed by Dougie. We saw Sid having a spin at lap 12, but he's saved by the desync and the situation, so he's starting P3, Klinsmann in P4, Wyall in P5, It's Stride P6, Combined YouTuber in P7, BuzzGod Eruption, Nathan Doan, and the Lights are red, and we're about to have a start here. And the lights are out, away we go, and there it is. So it's a great start by Dougie Falcon. Dougie Falcons on the hard tires, get on the inside on the Lights, and Lights immediately loses P1 to him. Another Mercedes in the back of it. Schrei overtakes Klinsmann. And now we've got a little bit of overcast weather, and there's a large crash in the back.
Oh my god!
Wow, instant safety car there, I believe. I don't know if it's a virtual or it's actual safety car. It looks like a virtual for now.
Incredible.
Whoa.
Or no DNFs there.
How was there no DNF? And that is Sid. Sid, who should have been
in the front.
in P3. So he had a crash instantly there. He rammed the back of his car into the wall. I'm surprised he doesn't have any damage. Alex Duarte with a severe collision with Magnussen Cube. Magnussen Cube goes around and is in the back and behind the safety car. Or the virtual safety car. I don't see the safety car on the minimap, so it looks like a virtual.
Dude,
This is a messy beginning of the race in multiple aspects.
So, interestingly, we have the two Mercedes in front again. We saw this a lot last year with Wild Fury and Klinsmann, and it'll be interesting to see if the new Mercedes team with the new Mercedes drivers can get their drivers to work as a team, as well as Wild Fury and Klinsmann did. That could be very important here to getting Lights ahead of Dougie and letting Schrei get there too.
Yeah, and looking at it, Sid is in P17, and he has lost 3 positions, so he most definitely, yeah, they've restarted from the VSC there, and another yellow flag in Sector 2, and that's Alex Duarte. Alex got 2 5-second penalty. That's what I wanted to check as well. I think he's got 10 seconds of penalties for 2 infractions during safety car procedures, and so that's going to be looked at most probably after the race as well. And he's lost it, and he's sitting in P18 with those
And there goes Eruption.
eruption as well.
Looks like he didn't go all the way around, but he was going slowly, so maybe just at a little moment.
Yeah, probably just caught his car just in time. Dougie Falcons leading the race so far in P1. Lights is about 7/10 behind him, already using DRS to keep within the DRS zone when it's going to be activated at the beginning of lap 3. Klinsmann and Ed Schry are going tied wheel to wheel. Klinsmann tries to defend from Ed Schry, and he loses it to him. Coming down the hill of turn 2, and he's gonna have a drag race with him and the DRS open as well. But Schry also has it. Both drivers are gonna be keeping it clean so far, and Klinsmann's gonna slot himself behind the Mercedes and keep going on the train. And YL has taken P5 so far. He's kept in P5, combined YouTuber and Anand Trivedi. Both Haas in P6 and P7. Great showing so far for the Haas. A great beginning of the race for them.
Yeah, and important to note about the Haas cars, as well as Eric and Nathan behind and Wild Fury in P11, is they're all on the medium tire here. So they're going to be looking to try and get ahead of those hard runners, who's pretty much everyone else on the field except for Victor and Buzzcott is well behind them, and try and make some advantage of the extra tire grip they have. If they get stuck behind these hard runners, then it's there really wasn't much point in them throwing it on. They're not going to beat them out.
Yeah, those drivers on the mediums are going to be looking to push for positions as much as possible. It's going to be important for them. So, as we're seeing,
they're going to have to just to avoid that the losing out during the tire warm up will be very rough in Sector 2 here. Drivers see all the grip they can get.
And so there's a batch of hard drivers on hard tire drivers from P1 to P5, and then starting a combined YouTuber in the Haas down to Nathan Doan in P9. They're all on the medium tires, so generally you'd be seeing those kind of drivers getting a lot more pace on the hard tire drivers, and combined YouTubers is going to try to maybe make a move on YL, but YL's keeping the pace up so far. And it's going to be hard to make a move on DRS unless there's a really large difference in setups on the main straight, and that's what we're about to see. Keeping an eye here with combined YouTuber. P6 gets a decent exit, but YL definitely got away with it. Probably got on the DRS a little quicker than him. And as we're seeing, the Haas driver is not able to catch up directly on the AlphaTauri, so he's going to try to make a move from somewhere else on the track. It's not going to be happening on the main straight, despite the tire differences.
Klinsmann ahead has just managed to get ahead of Schry, so he'll be hoping he can start closing that gap to Lights and putting him under threat. But of course, Schry is going to try and come back at Klinsmann for his own race, but that should also help his teammate out. So Mercedes will be happy if he can manage that, but he's not going to keep Klinsmann behind any longer. And if YL can get pace over Schry, then he might just keep falling back behind all those medium runners.
Yeah, Schry in P3 did do enough of a job to slow Klinsmann down, and he went a little bit deep on that corner, and YL's going to have a peek on him, trying to go wheel to wheel, going on the outside, and Schry's going to be able to defend his position, and he goes on the inside again. YL, he's taking the track available for him, and Schry's giving him the outside there, but he's keeping it so far, and that almost allowed the combined YouTuber to have a peek around turn 9 as well. And let's not forget Lights was, I was going to say was 410 just a second ago from Dougie Falcons, but has dropped back a little bit.
Yeah, he is putting up good pace, but I mean, I think he's just struggling to follow Dougie. Which is what we talked about earlier, especially in Sector 2, when you lose just that little bit of downforce when you're right on the edge, then it can be very difficult to follow the drivers ahead of you.
There's a yellow flag in Sector 1, and it looks like it's the Red Bull of Ethan Patel. Oh, he's trying to get back on track, and it looks like he's doing donuts, but he's just really, he's cooked his hard tires already in lap 6. He's going to have to handle that, and now he's dropped down to P18 behind Alex Duarte. So another moment, we see Ethan Patel have a moment during the sprint race, and it's happening again during the GP.
Yeah, no, you have to be careful after you spin. The car will and tires will just like keep a little bit of instability, which can make it very difficult to keep going.
Keeping an eye on Lights, who's harvesting his ERS pretty good there. Dougie Falcon's got 40% battery on his ERS. Light seems to really just is probably going to wait for the proper moment to strike, and he's able to keep in the DRS within the DRS range, so that's really important for Lights there.
Yeah, I think if Lights can have Dougie in front of him, just get a snap of oversteer out of turn 12, then that would be his moment to sender. But until then, he can just kind of bide his time. The drivers behind are quicker than either of them by the looks of it, so...
Just a quick notice for you, Seb. If you are using a wireless headset, it is sounding kind of choppy. Sponsored by R2D2, so I don't know if there's a little more. That's something you could do to make it a little bit more clear.
I'll give it a look. Might just be internet connection though.
Sounds good. We'll handle it with what we got for now. This is the kind of night we're having here for a season opener in the Division 2. Lights has stayed within the DRS of Dougie Klinsmann, who's done a great job at really leading the head of that first train that's really been created between him and going all the way down, I would say easily down to Wildfury and P11-ish. Seeing some separation going on, but as soon as they get into Sector 2, they all look really bunched up. And so far, these D2 drivers have been done a great job in keeping it really clean.
Yeah, and I mean, I think how tight the field is right now shows how competitive, of course, in those DRS trains, overtaking can be a very big task. So maybe there's some people with a bit more pace to show who's just kind of stuck in there. But the fact that they're all keeping together shows that there isn't an insane skill gap. Of course, Lights and Dougie are pulling away, given that. But the rest of the field seems very competitive.
Yeah, and two other drivers, who are using the same kind of strategy, and they're going to have that discussion sooner or later. Combined YouTuber and an Antrevite P6, P7, both on medium tires. They have similar pace as we've seen so far in this Grand Prix. So, there's definitely not a chance that both of these drivers are going to be pitting. We should be expecting them to be pitting around which lap, Seb? Would it be lap 14, 15, depending on their strategies?
Mediums, I imagine, will probably get pushed to about lap 16, maybe 15 on the early side. Of course, the hard runners are going to be looking more around lap 20, lap 21, so that's when we should be seeing the pit window open. But, of course, these medium runners, they don't seem to have insane pace compared to the hard runners, so they could often just kind of push it out as long as they can. I'm not really certain at this point.
Yeah, Division 3 was lap 16, although it was maybe slightly influenced by the safety car. We'll see what these drivers do to handle. And again, Light's just staying behind Dougie, and I think he's really keeping him under check there. So he's really... It's in the Sector 2, I think, that we see Dougie run away with it a little bit more. Further back, Klinsmann still leading the pack, so not a lot of overtaking happening so far. And that pack, really, if we drop down the grid from Mitch Schreier, all the way down to Nathan, and then we are at Wildfury. So all these drivers are just patiently waiting for each other. We've got some mid-pack hard tires and medium tire strategy, so it's all about the strategy at this point, and harvesting their ERS are mostly at this similar level. Okay, combined YouTuber, well, he's at P6. He's been using ERS a lot more compared to his teammate at Antrevite so far. If you go look a little bit further behind on the back runners, Blue Collar Jesus, who's had an interesting sprint race, to say the least so far, so he's dropped back a little bit during the sprint race. He's gained a position in... during the GP, Mateo and the Aston Martin, who's gained 4 positions so far, sitting in P13, who's behind Blue Collar Jesus, and the Williams. I think Joe Goron is expecting maybe a little bit more from his Aston Martin drivers. They were the 3rd and 13th pick overall so far. So Wildfury and Mateo sitting P11, P13, and Sid in P14 so far, who's had a major moment early in the race. Luckily, they don't have any damage. They don't have to pit in to change his tires. So he's just got to pace himself, and maybe a safety car is going to do something for him. That's a McLaren that's off. That is the McLaren of Eric McNerney. He's going wide a little bit. We'll see if he's got damage on him. It looked like he had a little off moment on the grass there, and so his tires probably needs to do a little bit of distance to be cleaned again. And I don't think... We'll see if he dives into the pit. He looks like he can really dive into the pit, probably because his tires are getting worn out. And so we're going to see the first driver in the pits going in for the hard tires, we would assume. Let's go see which tires he's going to put on. That's going to allow Ethan Patel to drive right by him and take P16 there. So hard tires for Eric McNerney in P17. He's going to go the long run and probably pray and hope for safety cars as he drops down to... Well, he's going to drop down dead last. Maybe Alex Duarte just got by him, and Buzzgod is just gone by him as well. Just about to finish lap 11 here. Dougie Falcon still leading the race in Brazil here. Followed rather closely by Lights, who's started to use some ERS a little bit more. He's been harvesting for a while, so maybe Lights is going to try to make a move eventually. He gets really close, much closer to Dougie Falcon as he's had a couple turns ago. It's important to get a really good turn 2 here, and now he's got DRS, and he's going to activate the DRS and the ERS. He's going to try to go on the inside. He's got to go on the grass. Gets the inside on Dougie Falcons. Dougie Falcons pulls the switcheroo and slides off. Dougie Falcons were a little too aggressive there. We saw a moment between Vettel and Lance Stroll earlier today, actually, during the race. Nearly the same exact moment. And that's Dougie Falcons fighting for P1, maybe a little too hard. And now he's slid off, lost a bunch of positions, and he's finding himself in P8, among the long train of drivers we have there. And we have Lights, the new race leader in the Mercedes, far ahead of everybody, 4.3 seconds ahead of Klinsmann. As Seb told us earlier, Lights is a driver that has a lot of pace. That's going to put Klinsmann in P2 as well, and a double podium finish potentially for the Mercedes currently in the positions they're holding right now in P1 and P3. And it looks like there's another moment going on behind. Is that Dougie Falcons again, or is that him just trying to go? What is going on? Dougie Falcons, don't know if he tried to go in the pit or made contact with another driver. And we have the Williams of Blue Collar Jesus. So an event happening in the back of the packs right there. I don't know if it was between Dougie and the Blue Collar Jesus and the Williams. Looks like Williams is changing their wing and changing their tires as well. So I think there was contact near turn... looks like it was turn 14 there along the straight. Just before the DRS zone. And that caused damage for the Williams. I don't know if Dougie Falcons is now driving with damage or not. If so, he's going to have to pit, change his tires, and it's getting really difficult to drive there for him. He's lost it again. His teammate Ethan Patel coming up behind him. So currently a disaster of a race. We're nearing the midway through the race, and it's a complete disaster for Red Bull. Klinsmann's back on, still in P2, so we're seeing already Lights. I was wondering, we're seeing Lights catching up to Eric McNerney in P19. About to lap a driver already. We're only lap 14 here, midway through lap 14. Klinsmann's defending really good against it. Schrei, by the way. Schrei, who's been getting DRS on him for quite a bit. So I'm wondering if Klinsmann maybe doesn't have a much lower downforce setup, and that allows him to keep ahead of the Mercedes drivers so far. There's another moment in Sector 1. It looked like Ethan Patel had a slip up in turns 1 and turn 2, so... Goodness, the Red Bulls are sliding all over the place. Is this something having to do with their drivability, their racecraft, or their car setup? I'm sure Duncan's going to have a discussion with both of his drivers later on tonight. Not that much movement. I'm telling you, the pack is. We're gonna expect a lot of movements in the next couple laps. We're nearing lap. We're nearing lap 6. We're beginning lap 15, nearing lap 16. A lot of the medium tires driver are probably going to be looking for their pit strategy there. So we'll see if which one of the two Haas's are going to go in first. Magnussen Cube has gained a position on Victor Diaz. P11 for a Ferrari, a little bit further back than we'd expect, but Victor Diaz is going to be there in P12, and he is looking to maybe gain back on him. He had the DRS advantage, wasn't able to get his position back, so that is Magnussen Cube taking P11 from Victor Diaz. Fastest lap just been set by Blue Collar Jesus, so it's a fresh tires and a fresh wing that allows him to do so. And with first driver going into the pits, and I think that is a non-Trivedi in the Haas. Yeah, so Haas driver, lap 16. He's the first in the medium drivers and probably the only so far on their current strategy to go into the pit lane. So he's going to go all the way to the end, going in for the hards. Great execution by the pit crew there, and off he goes once again. Oh, Nathan Doan, I believe, is diving through the pits as well, back there in P14. He's going to go for the hard tires as well. That's usually the strategy most drivers are going for, either the medium to hards or the hards to mediums. So next lap, we would definitely expect the other drivers being combined YouTuber, Wild Fury, and Victor Diaz, as well as BuzzGod, to be going down into the pits. BuzzGod, a former Division 3 champion who's now in Division 2. Driver who usually has a lot of pace, but right now in the Alfa Romeo is making it only up to P16. Alex Duarte, who's probably going to drop behind him following the penalties, is going to take once he pits. It's going to be a full 10 seconds. He's going to be waiting in the pit lane. Next in the pit, it is combined YouTuber. The other cut here in Brazil is relatively powerful here, so expect his teammate to end up in front of him, and that's going to be something we're going to keep an eye on, combined with Arnon Trivedi. It's a little bit tricky coming out of the pits here on fresh hard tires, given that they're a little bit cooler, and combined YouTuber is going to come out of on the straight, and he is side by side with Dougie Falcon, so Arnon Trivedi is a little bit further behind. Oh, it's going to be a little icy tires there for combined YouTuber, but he makes it work and keeps Dougie Falcons behind him. Dougie's on 16 old lap hards, and he's got his tires rubbed in perfectly, and he's going to try to take advantage of this situation, probably down the straight. Combined YouTube is going to be vulnerable coming out of turn 13 for the long DRS, and this is where the long DRS train we had a while ago has been completely split up by the drivers going on their strategies. I just want to notice Wild Fury is going a lap extra on his medium tires, so he's making them work. Both Aston Martins so far sitting P6 and P7, although Wild Fury does have to pit, and so that's going to drop him a little bit. And Mateo looks like he's got a 3-second penalty for cutting the track a little bit too often. That will affect his race result. All right, we're back here. So Wildfire is finally back into the pit. So he won an extra lap on the medium tires. He's gonna go for the hards. Probably expecting a stronger end of the race from him. He's trying to take advantage of that late pit, the overcut. Dougie Falcons made the move on Combined YouTuber. And Combined YouTuber has not been able to catch up or overtake Dougie on that main straight. And these guys are going to be coming out. Are they going to be past? Are they going to be just past the Aston Martin? So Wildfree is going to come out just behind both Haas's. He kind of goes side by side with Anand Trivedi, but Anand Trivedi also had DRS on from his teammate. And so that allows both Haas's to keep their positions on the Aston Martin. Wildfree is going to have to work very hard to gain those positions back. Lights, the Mercedes drivers, he's 6 seconds ahead of P2 so far. And so that's going to give him quite the advantage in regards to his... Like I've got a little bit of a moment there with Desync, and I'm hoping we're not seeing what we saw in sprint races. Look at it, Klinsmann once again fending from the Mercedes driver behind him, and there's a Sector 2... Is that Alex Duarte? It definitely is. Sector 2 yellow flag Alex Duarte. Looks like he's been off track. Something we've seen a couple times before already.
And he spun again.
He has. Welcome back, Sir Seb.
Yeah, the internet gods, I suppose, were not happy with me tonight, but I have returned to see a Mercedes 1-3, so I assume some things have happened, and they should be thinking about pitting now that we're reaching lap 20. Those hards will be getting to the end of the time you want to be on them in this Grand Prix. They should last longer, but, you know, you'll want to stop losing time on them now.
Yeah, most definitely. A lot of things has happened so far, and there was a major moment between...
Lights comes in.
Yeah, Lights is the first to come in of the hard strategies, surprisingly... Or like, yeah, I think he's the first to come in, so he's coming in on the pits. There was quite a moment between Dougie Falcons and Lights earlier. Yeah, everyone, the whole packet behind. So Klinsmann's, Wyall, It's Shry. It looks like they were really just following the strategy, and they've been following each other the whole time. So they're racing on the track, but they're also racing in the pits.
Yeah, and looks like Shry didn't lose too much time from the Mercedes double stack, but enough to fall behind Wyall.
Most definitely. So Wyall gains a position in the pit race. And almost spins off a little there. Crosses the white line, so that's a way to put some heat on those medium tires. And we're going to see eruption on one lap old mediums and take P4 now. And that's going to put him in an advantageous position. Sid, who's on 20 lap old hards, is probably going to be one of the next drivers to be pitting. There's only a few drivers left that's got to complete their pit strategy between Sid, Dougie, Ethan, and Alex Duarte in the back as well.
Yeah, I mean, all of these drivers who have just pitted onto mediums are in a really good spot for the rest of the Grand Prix. All the drivers who have thrown the hards on are probably going to be struggling a little bit to try and get up there and move those positions. Even if they can hang on, I don't know that the hards are going to give them that extra little bit of grip needed to overtake, unless people aren't managing their battery well.
Yeah, most definitely. And so as we've seen throughout the entirety of the race so far, we've got both Haas's following each other. It looks like Combined YouTuber is going to go dive on the inside of Anand Trivedi, and there's Wildfree who's really tight on close, and both Haas's are defending against the Aston Martin driver, and that worked wonders for both of them. Great teamwork for both Haas drivers. Combined YouTuber takes the position from Anand Trivedi, who in turn defends from Wildfury, cuts him off, and did so in a pretty clean moment there. As I lose Seb once again, so I'm going to turn the audio up, as I've seen requested in the chat, the audio up for the game. I'm going to have to turn it back down once Seb comes back. Here we go. So far, the race leader provisionally is Sid in the McLaren, sitting in P1. We're going to see if he's going to be pitting at any moment now. He's hugging the inside, and no, he's going to go for lap 22 on those hard tires. Essentially, it is Lights that is the P1 driver, and he had quite a distance between himself and Klinsmann in P3. Klinsmann is vulnerable to Eruption, who's got crazy pace so far, and he did have a moment early in the race. He goes on the inside in turn 1. Hugs a little bit close, and it gets close with Klinsmann, but he keeps it clean. Takes P3 in the podium position from the Alpine driver. Oh, a little bit of swing there on the main straight. Klinsmann's got DRS. Is going to try to get back on him, maybe on the inside, but doesn't do so. Eruption had the better pace so far. Great clean driving by the Ferrari driver, who's definitely having a bit of a redemption race so far. And just behind, we're also having a battle between Ed Stry and Wyall. We just seen these two drivers have a race with the pit crew involved. And Ed Stry got the position back from Wyall, so it's a Mercedes taking the P5 from the AlphaTauri. Further behind, we have a little bit of a group there, including Dougie Falcons, and we've got Ethan Patel right behind him. Probably holding up a couple, definitely holding up some medium tire drivers. Magnussen, Cube, and Matteo, and those fresh mediums. The Ferrari and the Aston Martin are completely blocked by 2 Red Bulls, and that is Ethan Patel for potentially the 7th time this race, sliding off, and I think that's going to be in the pits. He goes, and for the fresh mediums, those hard tires are completely cooked. Oh, broadcaster's curse. Whenever we look at a driver, some things happen, right? Dougie Falcons is not vulnerable to 2 drivers behind him with DRS. Looks like he's really using a very low downforce setup because both drivers with DRS, and he wasn't really much on his battery as well, and he was able to defend from both of these drivers. So frantic driving by Dougie Falcons, who's going to try to go the long way on his hard tires. By the way, who are 23 laps old. Him and Sid have not pitted yet. Ethan Patel has just got out of the pits. He's going to have a little bit of a drag race with Eric McNerney, as we can see here. Comes out in front of the McLaren, but Eric McNerney is going to be looking at it. He knows he's got fresher tires. Or tires that are not up to temperature for Ethan Patel, but 12 lap olds mediums on Eric McNerney. They're going to start to he's definitely going to start to feel it, and he's going to have to move on to a new set of tires eventually. And so Sid has gone in the pits. He's just about coming out of there. Down he goes through the windy turns 1 and 2. And that's going to allow him to be in P9 ahead of Dougie and Matteo. Magnussen Cube, who's lost a little bit of time between there, so he must have had a moment. He was really up there with Matteo, but definitely lost about a second and a half. And that officially puts Lights back in P1, 7 seconds ahead of the P2 driver Eruption, followed closely by Klinsmann so far. Wyall and Ed Stry are battling at it as always. What is not an advantage for Wyall and the AlphaTauri is that 3-second penalty he's got. Klinsmann thought about maybe going on the inside on Eruption. Eruption defended it well. Let's keep an eye on the DRS effect on the Ferrari driver. I don't know if the Ferrari driver is going to be using his ERS to defend. No, he doesn't. Definitely does not have enough of a speed difference to do an overtake on this straight. So Klinsmann's going to keep on P3, and he's going to do everything he can to stay within DRS range of the Ferrari. Wildfury, who's taken over both Haas eventually. So Anand Trivedi and Combined YouTuber dropped the position each to the Aston Martin. So Wildfury definitely looking like he's getting on his groove. He's got a little bit fresher hard tires. He went a little bit late on those mediums. And is now sitting P6, which is a lot more respectable. What is expected of an Aston Martin driver to be higher up within the mid-pack there. Oh, there's a bit of a moment there where we saw Combined YouTuber and the two Haas's were really close one to another. And Ancelotti seems to have had a moment out of turn 13. And now he's under attack by Sid and the McLaren. And Sid has got 2-lap-old mediums. He's got fresh tires. And he's going to have the DRS advantage as well. And Andretti on the battery, trying to defend himself, is going to have the inside line on Sid. The McLaren, cuts him off a little bit. Makes it really tight, but makes the move stick around the outside. Great move by Sid. And that puts the McLaren in P8. And for the first time in the race, we're seeing the Haas drivers being split apart. There are battles, there's pairs of battles starting to be spread around the track so far. Dougie Falcons, by the way, 26 lap old hards. He still has about 8 laps to go. Is there going to be another pit stop, or is that he's going to try to bring it all the way till the end? Probably hoping and praying for a safety car, and we'll see if going so long in those hard tires puts him in potential puncture territory. Blue Collar Jesus is behind him, trying to have the peak at the inside, decides to go back, to slide himself back behind him. Didn't have enough of a speed difference to go for a potential move there. Dougie Falcons had a couple moments on his tires earlier and seems to have calmed down and has gained his pace back, but the only thing that's slowing him down so far is those tires, were just probably screaming at him. We're seeing it's a difficult exit out there for Dougie Falcons, and he's going to be completely under attack by the Williams. The Williams is also going to have DRS, and he overtakes him before the DRS line even happens. So that is another position gain for Blue Collar Jesus, who's starting lap 16 on his medium tires. So he's also another driver who's looking at the potential of going really long between those with the medium tires. Oh, there's been a moment. Matteo goes off track a little bit and drops down to P10, and Anand Trivedi gains the position once again. The double battle is happening between Eruption and Klinsmann, and especially between the Alpha Tauri and the Mercedes of Itrai and YL. They've been following each other rather closely so far for the entirety of the race. YL's not been able to overtake Itrai at all on track. The only overtake that's happened was during the pit stops. The Mercedes driver gained back the position. Drivers are keeping it clean, and most of the drivers were just falling behind. They're really just taking their moment to maybe recharge a little bit the ERS and keep and hopefully make the driver behind front of them make some mistake and try to take advantage of that. And I believe I'm seeing Dougie Falcons. Yeah, Dougie Falcons going in for the pit stop, and that's going to be soft tires. The soft tires are going to be super performant for the next 6 laps here for Dougie, so he's going to be able to fly on track. But looking at where he's gaining back on the position, he's so far away from most of the pack. It'll be a while before he starts doing some overtakes. Gets back on the grid and just a little bit off of Buzzgod. Definitely is going to have the pace to catch up to him so far. We're seeing our first multiple other back markers, I believe. There's an AlphaTauri. Is that the AlphaTauri of Alex Duarte? Yeah, it is. So that's the AlphaTauri of Alex Duarte, who is going to be a back marker. McLaren in the back. Is that the McLaren of Sid, who's going to go on the inside of Combined YouTuber? Hugs it on the inside, and Combined YouTuber has to concede. And a great overtake once again by Sid. So the McLaren driver, who had quite a moment really early in the race, is really trying to have a redemption race, and he puts his McLaren up to P7 with only 5 laps to go. Now he's looking ahead at potentially Wild Fury, but yeah, he's definitely looking ahead at Wild Fury. There's 1 second between him and Wild Fury, so if he gets within the DRS range, he's completely used all of his battery. I don't know if Wild Fury has as well. Wild Fury has been harvesting his DRS for quite a while there, so he'll be using that to defend for the next couple laps. So that's going to be an interesting battle to look at ahead of ourselves. 12 lap old hard tires has been used up for Wild Fury. And Sid, who's got 6 lap old mediums, definitely still on their prime on their end. There was a Sector 3 flag. I believe that was Alex Duarte having a little bit of a spin there. So between P2 and P5, Eruption and Klinsmann seems to have run away from Shry and Wyall. Yet no overtakes has been happening so far. Eruption is still sitting comfortably in P2. Klinsmann is clinging on for the DRS range as well. Wyall really is able to stick to the gearbox of that Mercedes, but yet not in a position to be able to do any overtakes so far. Oh, Magnussen Cube was under attack by Anand Trivedi there. I believe it was the Ferrari driver who overtook him. Anand Trivedi is trying to take his position back there. So we're seeing Anand Trivedi losing a couple positions. He's sitting currently in P11. His teammate is in P8. Still in that regards, we have both Haas drivers in front of Red Bulls. And that is not something we would be expecting, especially not in Division 2. Oh, Sid has thought about making a move maybe on Wild Fury there, but he's going to revise himself. Had the better top speed there with the DRS help, and he's definitely going to keep an eye on this battle. That is one driver we're seeing with a lot more pace currently than the other is Sid. He's just going to find the proper opportunity to get in front of Wild Fury. And just maybe if he could get released in front. I don't know if it's... That is... Well, it's not Wild. It's another Alpha... That's the other AlphaTauri. I don't think he'll be able to catch up 5 seconds, but Sid for going for P6 is definitely something that he will be... That is attainable for him in the McLaren so far. Lap 34 was just begun by Lights, was currently sitting in P1, Eruption in P2. Klinsmann is right behind him in P3. He's maybe going to try to go for a very late move in the race. So that's another battle we got to keep our eyes on. It's Shry and Wyall. Wild Fury, who's closely followed by Sid, and Sid, who's going to do everything to get by him, now has the DRS advantage. Doesn't have enough of a speed boost there to really allow him to get by him on that straight, so he's going to have to look for a different kind of opportunity. Oh, and he's trying to go for it there. He used his ERS and nearly won right in the back of Wild Fury there. A little bit of an aggressive mood, and unfortunately didn't have any space on the track there to do an overtake. Used up his ERS there. He's going to remain P7 so far. Very similar battles we're seeing. Sid with Wild Fury, Wyall and Shry keeping really close and tight behind their drivers, unable to do any more overtakes. Eruption and Klinsmann are exactly the same amount of battery, both of them together. What would we just see coming out of the pits? That was the McLaren of Eric McNerney. So Eric McNerney was not having a good race whatsoever. Oh, there's a Mercedes that's around. Yeah, it's a Mercedes of It's Shry. So had a moment. I don't know if there was a contact or just a spin there on the curb. It's Shry drops down to P7 there. Probably cooked his tires a little bit. And now there's drag race between Sid and Wild Fury. Sid's got the inside this time. Wild Fury's going to try to stick on the outside. There's a Mercedes that's involved as well. And this time, Sid overtakes Wild Fury. And he's got P5. So now we got a three-way battle happening out there. In the back of the pack, I'm seeing potentially Victor Diaz making a move on Nathan Doan. Nathan Doe had a 3-second penalty, and he's going around the outside. He's going to try to keep it clean as much as possible. Nathan Doe's defending for his life here. Side by side, they go down up to turn 6. Great clean driving, and Nathan Doe's going to slot himself right behind his rival here. So both of these guys showed us a great example of what clean driving is. Nathan Doe and Victor Diaz, both drivers who are definitely have a lot of pace in them and are known to be clean drivers around the grid. Now back on the battle, Sid. We're going to go back to that three-way battle. Sid, the Aston Martin, and the Mercedes. He's still once again going down turn 3. Got the inside on the Aston Martin. Wildfrey's going to take a peek at him. He's trying to go on the outside, and he doesn't. He's not able to get it. And Try's just sitting there behind and probably just hoping for maybe a contact, a mistake from both of these drivers. And we're on the last lap, lap 36 already. What a race has been so far. And Lights crosses the line, and that is our first winner. Look at him doing a little bit of a slowdown. Our first winner of the season in Brazil for Division 2, followed by Eruption and Klinsmann. There's going to be a bit of a drag race in the back. YL crosses in P4. Sid, who's got ahead and finished a great P5. Wildfire in P6. Try in P7. Combined YouTuber in P8. Mateo, who's crossing P9, but with the penalties, it's going to drop him down to P10. Magnussen Cube takes the position on him. And Eric McNerney with the fastest lap of the race in P18. So steals that fastest point from whoever had it before him. Disappointing race for Red Bull. Dougie Falcons, who at some point was ahead of the race, had a great start and sitting in P13. Ethan Patel, I believe, was P16 or P17. Both of these drivers definitely going to have a little bit of a chat with Duncan McCamick going back into the pit box. And there we have it, ladies and gents. A little bit of Codemasters glitching around and restarting the lobby with the sprint race and whatnot. Losing my co-commentator halfway through the race as well, because why not? Your winner, Lights, in the Mercedes with Eruption, P2, Klinsmann in P3. All three of those drivers will be having a short interview with me in just a moment. All right, real quick rundown of your 20 seconds for your top 10. Lights, Eruption, Klinsmann, YL in P4 in the AlphaTauri, McLaren, Sid in the McLaren, Wildfire in P6, Shry P7, followed by YouTuber, Magnussen Cube, Mateo, completes your top 10. Blue Collar Jesus in P11, and Antrevedi in P12, Dougie, Buzzgod, Victor Diaz, Ethan Patel, Nathan Doan, followed by Eric McNerney and Alex Duarte, who two drivers who didn't have the race they really wanted to have. They'll have to look at it for next week in Abu Dhabi. All right, thank you, Eruption. So you were telling us about how you were running or noticed a lot of drivers having lower downforce setup, so that was good for them for the first part of the race. But on used tires, you were able to gain a lot more positions and have a much higher pace than you, or than your rival drivers, given that situation. So P2 for your starting race, how are you approaching Abu Dhabi next weekend with the new tire, the new track layout?
Yeah, I didn't drove the track yet, but I saw a lot of streams from other drivers. And it looks pretty fun to be fair, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
All right, perfect eruption. So thank you for having such a great race. Thank you for the interview tonight. Congratulations on P2, and we'll see you next weekend.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, and here we are with our race winner, Lights, the Mercedes driver. Congratulations on your race win, Lights, the first of Division 2. How does that one feel?
Oh, that was great. A bit sweaty after it, but quite dominant from the start. Did a bit of practicing this week and it paid off.
Most definitely practice paying off, definitely showing how much pace you have. A bit of a rocky start of the race. Dougie Falcons taking over in P1, and then they went for the ad overtake. You want to walk us through your moment with Dougie Falcons and your point of view on that moment there?
Oh yeah, I had of course the greatest engineers. They told me to wait, and I decided to go that lap after they stopped me. After they told me to stop waiting because he's losing the kind of grip. He moved over to the side when I was alongside him, and he just pushed me off the track. And I just kept going because I couldn't like turn away or back out. And then he tried to undertake me, and he's fun. So.
And that was basically it for the rest of the race. You kept the lead practically the entirety of the race, and quite a lead you had there. How you mentioned practicing a lot this week and being ready for Division 2. Is there drivers that help you out, or do you set yourself goals to be maybe to get yourself back in Division 1 for next season, maybe?
I can't really do Division 1 because it doesn't really suit my time. Like 11 a.m. on a Monday, I'm pretty sure.
Right.
But yeah, I work with a lot of the drivers in Mercedes to, help me improve for the race, and it's worked out well.
Most definitely, Mercedes was known to have a very well-run team here in ZRL. I asked a question to Eruption earlier about next week is going to be the new layout track for Abu Dhabi. He hasn't driven it on it at all yet. Have you taken any time to practice on Abu Dhabi, and how are you going to be approaching it for the next weekend race?
I haven't put much time to it, but I really like the new layout. It's removed the parts that made me struggle, so yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'm going to be working with the team over the week. I'm going to do a few practice sessions here and there, and we'll see how we go from there.
All right, thank you for your time, Lights. Congratulations again for your P1 tonight. Congratulations, and have yourself a beer. Go celebrate that win, and we'll see you next weekend.
Yeah, thank you.
A lot of action for Brazil tonight, on the track, off the track, connectivity issues, desync issues, but in the end, a Mercedes driver took the win. And quite a fashion with a heated battle with a Red Bull, something we've seen in real life quite often. Red Bull versus Mercedes. Is that something that's going to be happening throughout the entirety of the season in Division 2? That's something we're going to have to be looking forward to throughout the rest of the season. Come back with us next weekend, Saturday, 10 p.m. Eastern. Division 2 Zoom Racing League will be back on in Abu Dhabi. Let's see how the drivers will be faring over there on that track. It's going to be the new layout offers us many more opportunities for overtaking. It was John Ranger for your broadcaster tonight. I did have Seb with me, but I lost him halfway. Tune in with us next weekend. Have yourself a good night, everybody.